Thank you for coming back and listening to the Technology Alchemist. Our sponsor is Your Virtual CTO. Your Virtual CTO is a technology services company specializing in increasing your revenue and profit through a close examination of your technology engine. Your Virtual CTO offers exclusive coaching for business leaders. That is the only business coaching program that includes technology as part of the program. If you want to learn how you can make more money by tuning up your technology engine, you can learn more at getyourvirtualcto.com. Now, normally I'm the one doing the interviewing, but today the tables are turned and I'm going to be interviewed by Ellen Melko Moore. So thanks for being here, Ellen.
Thank you for having me, Mike.
So how are you today?
I am well. I'm excited. This is going to be fun. As you know, I know all the secrets, that you all keep and how you guys do such an amazing job. When I met Mike, he was the first person I ever met that really talked about technology making people money instead of costing people money. So anyway, that's
our focus.
Yeah, exactly.
That's our focus.
So should I go ahead and tell the folks at home who you are?
Sure. Why don't you go ahead and do that?
All right. Well, Michael Mahony has been working as a technology expert for more than 30 years. He's held every possible position from programmer to chief technology officer. He currently heads up the Web Scientists, a digital agency, and he's the CEO of Your Virtual CTO. In 2006, Mike built a new innovative technology platform for the restaurant delivery industry, and Grubhub wound up purchasing his client for $85 million, in a large part to obtain that platform that Mike created. Known to his clients as the most user-friendly technologist on the planet, thanks to his ability to translate technical issues into plain English, Mike is married and has 4 children. So welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Alan.
All right, so we're going to just get right into it. Let's talk about what is a virtual CTO? What is your virtual CTO?
Well, we get asked that question a lot, and the first thing that people seem to never understand is the term CTO. What does that mean? And that's a Chief Technology Officer. And the major difference, that's the second question people ask, is what's a Chief Technology Officer versus a Chief Information Officer? Mm-hmm. And the major difference is that a CTO presents the strategy for the technology, while a CIO executes that strategy. So I created Your Virtual CTO as a CTO on demand service. So companies who don't necessarily have the funding for a full-time CTO, which can be in the $200,000 to $300,000 a year salary range, they hire me, and it's kind of like the term fractional CTO is another one that gets thrown around. And so they hire me to take up a certain amount of time each month, and I plan their technology strategy for them. And the goal is to take their tech strategy and align it with their business plan. And that is one of the major flaws I see in companies that I join, is they have a business plan, and if they do have a technology strategic plan, the two don't match. They go in different directions. So my job is to just get that strategy going, help them. I attend meetings. I oversee their staff in some instances. I have an offering that can get you as little as you want and as much as you want, and we take care of that for you on a monthly basis.
What is that? And I know we're going to get into the details about this later, but I just have to ask: what is roughly the price commitment compared to having a full-time CTO?
Well, the lowest package that I offer is $3,000 a month. Mm-hmm. And for $3,000 a month, that will get you the ability to copy me on emails. I will generate a strategy for you from the very beginning that then I can help you execute. It doesn't involve any management of your team at that point. Mm-hmm. And then it can go up as high as $10,000 a month. Mm-hmm. But at $10,000 a month, I'm pretty much in the trenches managing your projects, your staff, your hardware decisions, etc. And if you happen to have a technology director, I guide them towards, why are we doing this and how are we going to get it done?
So it's still, even at the highest end, it's a considerable savings over having your own full-time CTO. So that's probably one of the reasons people choose this, right?
Yeah, it's roughly depending on the size of the company and how experienced a person they're looking for. It's
Hmm.
anywhere from um, 60% less to half of what the actual cost would be.
Yeah.
I've seen anywhere from low end of like 150,000 a
Mhm.
year up to $300,000 a year, depending on the size of the company, staffing size. That all factors into it.
Okay. So, I mean, really, the focus then is to spend a bit less money to get more significant results, because the advantage here is that then the technology and the business plan are going to work together as opposed to kind of working at opposite ends. It sounds like what you're saying. Is that correct?
Well, yes, and if at this point in my career, if someone wanted to, like they were desperate to have me as a full-time employee,
Mhm.
at this point it would probably cost them close to 300,000 a year.
Yeah.
Plus, I would want stock options. I would want
Right.
some skin in the game,
Mhm.
because if I'm going to give up what I'm doing and setting my own schedule and working when I want to work, and I have to now move it back into the corporate arena, I want some skin in the game. So
Yeah.
it's dramatically cheaper to do it this way, and you're getting for the price. Now remember I said it was like 150,000. For that you're going to get somebody who maybe is newly rose to the CTO position.
Right.
You're going to get somebody here who has 30 years experience, and as you mentioned in the intro, I've done everything. I've done every position. And so when it comes down to understanding, the business, I get that.
Mhm.
When it comes down to understanding each job that each person does in the technology department, I also understand that. So it puts me in a unique position because I bring to you the business knowledge of having run a multi-million dollar company.
Mhm.
And at the same time, I've been in the trenches writing the code, releasing the code, working on the hardware. So you get a much what's the word I'm trying, a much more experienced person for a lot less money.
So speaking of which, what is it that you most enjoy like today about working with technology? What's your favorite aspect of what you do today compared to perhaps what you did 10 years ago or 5 years ago?
Well, there's really three things that I really like. The first thing is having an impact on the direction a company goes with their technology, rather than having a let's throw it at the wall and see what sticks approach. When I show the client, look, we can follow this path and
Mhm.
it's going to lead you to places that you're going to want to go. They get very excited by that, because then the second thing that I get excited by is helping them not only increase their revenue, but increase their profit at the same time. So rather than just piling on all these automations that cost them money, but might make them extra revenue, a lot of companies look at me and when we're having the initial conversation, they say, well, that's great. You're going to do this and you're going to do that for me, but it costs me money to do that.
Mhm.
Right. But I'm also increasing your profit margin because I'm going to streamline processes. I'm going to eliminate software that you don't need. I'm
Mhm.
going to eliminate processes that you don't need. And we're going to get it down to a fine tuned engine. And then the third thing is just looking back at successful projects.
Mhm.
It just makes me really happy to be able to take an idea that a customer has and turn it into something that they can use to benefit their business. Because one of my philosophies is helping other people. I'm that person, if I didn't even know you, but somehow we like traversed the same Facebook group, and you
Uh-huh.
knew that I was awake for some reason at 3 in the morning, and your car was stuck somewhere. I'm the guy you could reach out to, and I would actually go and get you and bring you back, even if I didn't know you personally.
You
Just
would.
by
Yeah.
being acquainted with you, I would help you out. And I love helping my clients. I think there's nothing more rewarding than seeing a happy client. I mean, I got an email the other day from one of my clients. We just showed them a project that we're about 90% of the way done, and his words made me smile. He said, the website looks beautiful. Keep up the good work. And it just makes you happy to hear that you're hitting the mark that people are expecting.
So speaking of that, what do you think your virtual CTO tends to do better than your competitors, or what the people other people might perceive as your competitors?
Well, you mentioned in the beginning that my clients call me the most user-friendly technologist, and I've had that label for probably 20 years now. And the reason is I would go into a discussion with a client and they're expecting a very technical person. And like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever watched, or any of you out there have ever watched the show Silicon Valley, but it's a perfect example of what happens in the technology arena. You get people who are very adept at technology, but they
Mhm.
know nothing about how to interact with human beings. They only
Right.
know how to interact with machines. And
Yeah.
so when they're asked to explain something, um, and you they explain it, it's like all these words come out, and then the other person glosses over, and they have no idea what the heck was just said to them.
It's really a failure of communication rather
Right,
than anything else.
right. And
Mhm.
that's what I do differently than my competitors, is that I'm able to speak plain English, and I kind of translate in my head. I see something and I go, okay, they want to know what this is doing. Well, what they really want to know is, what's the end result? I click this button and this happens. They don't
Yeah.
want to know I click this button and then it does this and then it does this and then it does this and then this happens. They don't care about that.
Yeah.
So I cut through the BS, and um, they love that, because they're they don't have a lot of time. That's why they're hiring you. So they don't want a 20-minute long explanation of what we did and why we did it.
I mean, we all have different neural pathways. We all have different bandwidth, and I think
Bingo.
what you're talking about is translating it so that those of us who do not have the same type of understanding can get the benefit to our bottom line, the benefit to our business, rather than uh, perhaps slowing ourselves down a little bit trying to understand the intricacies. So that leads to my next question, which is the way you manage projects. You've said the way you manage projects for your clients is fairly different than the way other technology experts tend to handle these things. Let's talk about that.
Well, to explain that, I have to go back a step. And when my wife and I first went into business together, we founded a company called the Web Scientist, which is now the holding company for all of our various lines of business.
Mhm.
And it started out as the technology arm of the
Mhm.
business, but through some rebranding, we've changed all that up. And the reason it was named the way it was named is because, most project managers will log the tasks, check the Gantt chart, and make sure that, this is being done before that and that's getting done before that. They
Mhm.
follow up with the team of developers and maybe hardware engineers that are building hardware, and they make sure those things are getting done, and that's pretty much it. What we do is more of a scientific approach, where we do all of that, but then before anything ever gets handed off to the client, it is tested thoroughly. And by that I mean every single link. If it's a website, every link is clicked at least one time.
Mhm.
And that's, if you make a change, you do it all over again and you click every single link. Because I've learned over the years that if you write two lines of code, you can introduce hundreds of bugs that you didn't expect. And there's nothing more embarrassing than giving a client something and having them find all of these bugs. Now, they're going to find one or two things here and there, and that's okay. We get a little too married to our approach, but ultimately it's that scientific approach of test, retest, 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 retest. Take nothing for granted. Make no assumptions. That's one thing. I'm a person who, I don't assume things, and it's why I have to work with the right people, because it drives certain people crazy, because I probe and I ask more and more and more questions, because I want to make sure that I'm actually understanding what you're asking for and not just coming up to my own conclusion. And so, that's another thing. I mean, I just said there's nothing worse than handing it to a client and having them find a bunch of bugs, but maybe a close second is giving something to the client and seeing the look in their face where they go, I don't know what this is.
No,
Why did
yeah,
you
the
do
right
this?
word. Yeah.
So it's very important to ask those questions. And so those are probably the two major ways I manage projects differently than any of my competitors.
So speaking of the client saying, I don't know what this is and where we're going, let's talk about the Technology Accelerator roadmap. What is that? And why should we care? Those of us who
But
are
yeah, that's a proprietary system that I came up with years ago,
listening.
and I've used it many, many times to increase the profit at any company.
Hmm.
Um, I actually guarantee it's an 8-week program in which it starts out with an audit, and then we come up with a plan to accomplish the increase in revenue and profit, and then we
Okay.
start executing that. I work with the client to teach them how to do the process,
Yeah.
and then I offer to train their staff. If they don't have staff, I actually have people that I can provide to them to maintain this going into the future for a very inexpensive price, actually less than the cost of one of their employees. But what happens in the end is they are guaranteed a 10% minimum increase in their profit. And if they
Wow.
don't get that 10% minimum increase after doing the things I've asked them to do, then I refund their money. They don't pay a
Wow.
penny. And
Okay.
so that's why you should care, because, you know, I've used to be involved with a lot of fitness professionals, and one of the things they talk about there is the scale isn't what's
Yeah.
important. It's your body composition that's important. Well, it's the same thing
Yeah.
with a business. If I'm making $100,000 a month, but I'm only making, 5,000 a month in profit,
Right.
I could still make $100,000 a month, but if I make 10,000 a month in profit, I've just doubled how much money I have to play with.
Yeah.
And I didn't increase my revenue even a penny. And
Yeah.
so that's why I focus mostly on the profit generation. And what I've found happens, and it's why I can continually say I will increase your profit and your revenue, is that
Mhm.
I've noticed that by focusing on the vital things that they need to focus on,
Mhm.
they somehow manage to drive more revenue as well.
Well,
Um,
that makes perfect sense. I mean, when something, right, when it's focused and it's functioning the right way, as human beings, we respond to that. I think things just become more profitable when people are focused in the same direction. I mean,
yeah,
don't
I
you think
agree.
a lot of it is when people are focused in different places or the business is focused in the wrong places, that's where a lot of the revenue gets drained away, maybe.
Well, it's like the whole argument about weight loss, to go
Yeah.
back to that kind of thing. People say, "Oh, I use the keto diet, I use
Mhm.
paleo, I go low carb, I do Atkins."
Mhm.
And everybody swears that they all work, and guess what? They do, but there's a reason why they work. Because anytime you focus on your diet, you're
Mhm.
going to do better.
Yeah.
And when you do better, you lose weight.
Yeah.
Now, granted, you're going to hit a plateau, and it's the same thing with business.
Mhm.
When you focus on the right things, you're going to see your profit increase. And if maybe your revenue increases at a slower pace, it'll eventually plateau, but that's
Mhm.
okay, because then all you do is you run the business back through the roadmap process
Okay.
at its new level, and you find new things that you can change to push it to the next level and the next level. And it's one of those things that it's like wash, rinse, repeat. You just keep
Mhm.
doing it over and over again, and it becomes a discipline. And once you have that discipline, you're going to see your numbers increase. There was a saying once, you can't manage what you don't measure.
Yeah.
And it's true. I think what happens is by going through the roadmap process, the client is now focused on the key elements in
Yep.
their business, and it's shocking to them. They might find out that their marketing message is bad,
Mhm.
and they find that out through going through a technology process. That's why I say our coaching program is something that is unique, because it um, takes the roadmap and it adds on like, okay, I'm going to teach you how to run your business, but I'm not going to do the typical you need to do this and you need to do that kind of
Mhm.
detail. I'm going to get you focused on how you can use your technology to make your day easier for you, so you work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of makes me think of something that I'm sure frustrates all ambitious people, the 80/20 rule that we tend to, we tend to get 80% of our profits and our good things from about 20% of our labor. And as you know, Mike, I work with people on LinkedIn, and that's an argument we hear all the time is, well, I can't do this or that thing because I'm already doing these 80 other things. And just saying, well, perhaps like what are the actual results? You're doing those things because somebody told you this is what you have to do. But what are the actual results you are seeing from that effort? And I'm assuming it's the same thing here, right? I mean,
For sure.
if you can actually change, I mean, would you say that? Would you say this starts to change the 80-20 rule for entrepreneurs who are focusing in this way, for business leaders focusing this way?
Definitely, because I mean, one of the things that I teach them through the process is this isn't something you personally have to handle.
Yeah.
If you had zero, let's say you're a single entrepreneur working by yourself and your business is growing and you've gotten to the point where you know you need to like look through your technology engine. And I talk about the technology engine a lot because these days there is no such thing as a business that doesn't use any technology.
No. Yeah.
I mean,
It's not.
I mean, if you have a meeting with people today, you use some sort of meeting software, be it
Yeah.
Zoom, GoToMeeting. That's technology.
Mhm.
And what you find amazingly is that entrepreneurs are really good at trying out new things, but they're really bad at canceling the things they no longer use.
Yes. Yeah.
So what they find out is, hey, I might not be able to stay on top of this stuff, but if I hire a virtual assistant who's been trained on what to look at, they
Mhm.
can help me maintain the success that I'm having. And it frees them up to do the things like LinkedIn outreach
Mhm.
that you teach people,
Mhm.
and it frees them up to do that because they no longer have to worry about their engine. It's just working, and that's how it should be. It's an engine. It's no different than any other machine that you would have.
Mhm.
You when you get in your car, you turn the key. You don't think about all the things that make the car start.
I certainly don't.
You
Yes.
just pray that the car starts, and if it starts, you're like, okay, I now know how to get where I want to go. And it's the same thing when you come in the morning and all systems are working. You just know you don't have to worry about that today. You just go ahead and manage your business and let your trained staff help
Mhm.
with that. I think that's the key, is learning that you don't have to do it yourself. And i'm not like I'm a big fan of automating a lot of things,
Mhm.
but there are things that require human interaction,
Yeah.
and you need to make sure that those get human interaction. Like,
Right.
I would never recommend somebody let a bot loose on their Instagram to engage with people, because bots can't engage with people. All
Yeah.
bots can do is spit out what you tell them to spit out.
Right.
Um, and that is not a kind of automation I would support. But like, people who use like an old fashioned process of collecting emails into a spreadsheet, I don't understand why they do that.
Right.
Because then when they want to unsubscribe, they have to go deal with that. Whereas, I could have 100,000 people on my mailing list, and maybe I send out a controversial message and 10,000 people unsubscribe. I might not even know that 10,000
Right.
people unsubscribe.
Right. You might
And
not.
and that's because it's automated. I don't take care of it. So that's a huge, I mean, that's why people should care about these processes, because it's going to make you more money. And ultimately, like, let's say as a let's say as an entrepreneur, you told yourself, I'm going to pay myself 50% of whatever I profit for the
Mhm.
year, and the other 50% is going back in the business. Well, that example of 100,000 in revenue, and you're only making $5,000 per month profit, you're only getting paid $2,500 a month. But if you
Right.
can double that to 10,000, now you doubled your pay to
Yeah.
$5,000 a month, and it keeps growing. And so the bottom line, which is what profit is, right? It's the bottom
Yes.
line number
Mhm.
that goes into your pocket, or it gets reinvested in your business. It's the look of shock on people's face when you
Yeah.
show them, look, here's where you were when we started, and here's where you are now. Look how cheap your expenses have come down.
Mhm.
um, it's crazy. And honestly, in this time that we're in right now with the coronavirus and all of that, those clients are the ones that when I check in on them, they're just cruising. They have no
Yeah.
problems. They're not worried. It's the ones who haven't done what they were taught that are stressing.
Yeah. No, I can get that. And speaking of which, for those who have not yet had the blessing of this type of help, what's one tip you can offer entrepreneurs who want to use technology or use technology differently to improve our business? Granted, we are better off putting this in the hands of someone else. Mike, we always say you're going to pay one way or another. You're going to
That's so
pay
true.
with your money, or you're going to pay with your time, energy, and attention to try to learn something that you may or may not be suited to do. Mike and I are old friends, so he knows my brain does not work particularly well in certain organized fashions. So again, what can we do? What can we take from this that starts to get us in the right direction? So maybe we could start to see a benefit, even just from making a small step ourselves.
I think like you like to call it the shiny object syndrome, and I
Mm-hmm.
just kind of cut it right down to the word focus. I think if people would stay focused on what their mission and their vision is,
Mm-hmm.
the rest should just sort of follow. Like I mentioned, if you have a business plan and then you have a technology strategy built and they don't correspond perfectly with one another, then you
Mm-hmm.
have a problem.
Yeah.
It'd be like, I love to use the weight loss analogy because it's something everybody understands. Be
Yeah.
like if you said, I'm going to lose 50 pounds, and but by losing 50 pounds, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Taco Bell every day and I'm going to eat 10 of their crunchy tacos 3 meals a day. You're not going to lose weight, you're going to gain weight.
Yeah.
And it's because you lost your focus.
Yeah.
And if you maintain your focus, the things you need to do become obvious and logical rather
Yeah.
than like constantly searching, because you do this thing now, because I did that, I need these support systems in place.
Yeah.
And so what your technology budget sort of suggests itself from your business strategy. So I think that's the biggest tip, is just make sure that you're focused and that you're doing the things you need to do, and not just things that you want to do.
Right. Now, can you tell us a story or give us an example, perhaps from one of your clients, perhaps from your background, whatever, that, just something short and sweet that kind of helps us see when we talk about focus with technology. Can you think of an example that would kind of illustrate that for people?
Sure. The Los Angeles Superior Court, gosh, maybe 6 years ago, came up with the idea, as did many courts at the time, of allowing electronic court filings. And it's a great idea, because one of the biggest costs for an attorney is to
Mhm.
pay somebody to go to court and file documents for them. And if
Right.
they can do it over the internet like everybody else does things,
Yeah.
why not? So the
Yeah.
court decided to do that. But where they lost focus was, who's going to print that out? Like, how is the judge going to read the document that came over
Ah,
in electronic format?
yes.
There
Mhm.
was no way. They just like printed it themselves. So now what they did, an attorney sending 100-page motion on paper that they would just hole punch, put it in a folder, give it to the
Right.
judge,
Right.
now comes in electronically, and they have to print it, which
Oh
means they're
man.
using their printer, their
Hmm.
ink, their paper, and then give it to the judge in the same file.
Hmm.
So what I was tasked to do was create a paperless system for
Hmm.
the judges. And initially, the paperless system was just supposed to enable them to read the documents. But
Hmm.
as we talked it through, we actually created a whole docketing system. So judge comes in the morning, his entire calendar is right there on the computer. Then
Right.
he can view all the documents that are attached to that case. He, previous to that day, could have gone in and added notes to the
Right.
documents from his
Right.
own
Not just read it.
research.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that way, when he gets in there and he's sitting in front of the courtroom, he has that document and his notes
Mhm.
on the screen. He can make his ruling. If anyone questions him, he can say, no, 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 that case says this, it doesn't say that. Here's
Right.
my research, etc. So where they lost focus was just not thinking about, well, hey, it's great that we get it electronically, but how do we read it? And
Right.
we fixed that by creating a paperless system. It's called Judicial Bench View, and they use it to this day.
That's awesome. Okay, that's a really good example, Mike. I love that story. I knew a little bit of that from you before, but I didn't know all
Yeah.
those details. That's pretty cool. Well, now, so last couple of things. Are there any other issues as far as all this that you would suggest a business leader really needs to master, whether they're entrepreneurial or a professional in a larger organization? What do you think a business leader really has to master?
I think it's something I've been focused on a lot lately. I think that planning on a regular basis is something that they need to do, because that goes back to maintaining your focus.
Mhm.
If you sit down and you write out your plan for the week, yeah, things are going to come up and you're going to get thrown curveballs,
Mhm.
but you don't stress about it as much because you can see places where you could fit. Well, this task isn't going to get done today, but I have time on Thursday afternoon, so let me
Right.
just shift that guy over there. Um, you're you're living your business life intentionally by doing
Mhm.
that because you've planned Monday I'm doing this, Tuesday I'm doing this. I'm even trying to work on getting it to the point where, because I'm responsible for multiple businesses, I'm trying to get it to the point where, one day is content creation day.
Mhm. Yeah.
Another day might be client meetings. Another day might be personal development. And I know some people like to spread that stuff out over the week, but I'm finding that it becomes the thing you shove to the side when nothing else, once other things get in the way. But if Wednesday is your personal development day and you don't take meetings on that day and you just block your calendar, that can't happen. And
That
that's, content creation. Everybody wants to be great at that these days. The only way to do it is to batch create your content, and you
Yep.
can't do that if you don't block off a lot of time. So I think it's just managing your time better and planning better is what every any business executive, entrepreneur, everybody needs to do. It'll make your life a lot easier.
It reminds me, I was talking about this with one of our other clients. The thing we see again and again with small businesses, where there's two or three or four people running things, and then they've got bigger clients, right? They're a consultancy, there's a bigger client. So often people make the mistake of not taking charge of how things should be done and then deferring to their clients' thoughts, concerns, wishes, how was it done before? And then everything starts to go downhill because unfortunately, the reason we, the client, need help is because we don't actually understand how that works, and that's why we're paying for it. But I think when we run these smaller businesses that don't have this, giant organization behind it, we start to get too deferential to other people because then it's kind of like, oh, you don't take meetings on Wednesdays. Well, but everyone else takes meetings on Wednesdays. And Mike, I'm not saying you, but I think we
No, I
all,
hear you.
we feel that responsibility, like, oh, I should be open to this because it's what the client wants. But what I learned, like you, I've been in this game for almost 30 years, and what I learn more and more each year is that the client, and that includes me when I'm the client, we have no idea what's good for us for the most part, very little. If we're paying for outside help, there's things that we didn't quite get, and it didn't matter how much we studied, it maybe just wasn't our gift. So I
Well,
think a lot of what you're talking about is just acting with intention and making things just easier to follow because there is a plan that a person planned who knew what was going on.
Well, right, and that's the key. Is I've done interviews where I'm trying to hire somebody, and they'll send, like, say you're trying to hire a copywriter, and they'll send you their copyright examples, and it's 9 out of 10 times it's blog posts,
Mhm.
and the blog posts have somebody else's name on them. How do I
Mhm.
know you wrote that blog post? Like,
Right.
I'm going to have to give you some sort of a brief test. Now, I've been on the other side of that. I've had people give me full on 5-hour projects that they want me to
Mhm.
do for an interview and not pay me for. Not going to happen, just
Yeah.
not going to do that. So what I
You.
do, so what I do is I respect their time and I give them maybe like a 15-minute task that,
Mhm.
here, write me 3 paragraphs about um, dog dog breath spray, fresh
Mhm.
breath spray for dogs. Write me 3 paragraphs about that because I want to see what they can do, but I also don't want to infringe upon their time. Well, I've had people push back and say, not unless you pay me. Well, I don't do that. So the next one is, well, okay, then I guess you're not the right person to work with me because
Those magic
we don't
words
match. We
save
don't
us so
match.
much trouble. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just
That's
have
we
to
do
let them
that
go.
too when people say, when I've turned something into someone and they come back with, 99 more questions, that's the first thing I say is, I don't think we're a good fit.
Well,
There's many
or when
things you don't understand about this.
or
Yeah.
when people want to pay you, you offer them 3 installments and they want to pay you in 9 installments.
Mm.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't I'm not going to bend on that, not because I don't trust you, but because, that's just yet another thing I have to change in my process. I mean, we talked a little while ago about how you come in and, like, I used the example of the mailing list because it's an obvious one. I could have 100,000 people on a mailing list and lose 10,000. I might not know for a few days
Yeah.
because the software takes care of it. Well, the same thing with payments. I have my payment system set up a certain way for each product. And if you're going to try to get me to change it, now you want 9 months. This guy wants 12 months. This one wants
Mhm.
2 months. No, we're going to stick to the three payments, and you're welcome to pay it in one payment. But
Right?
this is how it works. And
Yes.
I think that's the key is, trusting that your process is your process. It works
Yes.
for you. Just
Yes.
because other people, yeah, there's people out there that give you 12 months to pay off
Mhm.
something. Great. That works for them. Nothing wrong with that. But my way is this way. And I think it gets respect from people when you
Yes, it
put your
does.
foot down and kind of say, nope, this is how it works.
Yeah.
And it's okay if that customer goes away, they weren't your customer.
If you really want to blow people's mind, have a powerful or wealthy person offer you work. Take a look at that work, come back and say, here, I don't think I'm the right person for that, and here's why. I would be looking for this or that. And there are a few opportunities I've had to do that. I mean, people are just stunned, but they don't forget you, because
Yeah, they
unlike
remember you.
everyone else, you weren't trying to be everything to everybody. And I think a lot of the reason people get into business, especially business for themselves, entrepreneurs, they want freedom. People don't get into this because they necessarily want security, or because I mean, that can come. But as you and I both know, 1 out of 5 is about what's going to make it. So people come in for freedom, but there is no freedom without structure. There is no freedom without efficiency. Those things are what give that to you. So again, you are either going to waste time trying to figure this out yourself, you're going to pay one way or another. And
Well, you do. You
yeah,
really do.
yeah,
And
that's
even
how people.
down to the coaching, like, when someone's looking for a business coach,
Mhm.
finding the right person is only half the battle. The other half of the battle is making sure you can work with that right person.
Right.
Just because they know their stuff and they worked well with, Joe over there, doesn't mean they're going to work well with you.
Not
And
so
you
much.
and you have to be willing to understand that. And no hard feelings. we're
Mhm.
moving we're moving into a different direction.
Right.
I always say get a customer, keep a customer. But it means even more in the last year where we're being picky about who our customer is. So now it's like, well, now I get a customer. They're the right customer. I want to keep that customer and I want to make them happy. And I mean, sometimes it comes down to, I've had people when they're after the initial 8 weeks is over of the Technology Accelerator roadmap, one of the VAs will take over, and I'll have them contact me like a month later, and I'll say, oh, let me look at what you've been doing, VA, and they'll show me, and I'll say, oh, well, you keep skipping this one weekly step. Oh yeah, they don't need that. No, they need it. It's part of
Right.
the process.
Right.
Don't leave things out. Remain focused on,
Mhm.
it's almost like having a checklist, and you just have to check every box every week. And if you do that, you'll build this momentum that does crazy things.
Well, the reason I think people should get in touch with you, both for their technology and their strategic planning, business planning with technology, is you yourself have multiplied your own income, and you've multiplied income as well as revenue for some of your other customers, including that platform that you built that Grubhub wound up
Yeah.
buying from your clients for 85 million. So I think it just makes sense for people to get in touch with you and talk about what that might look like for them. So in order to do that, how should they find you? Where are you active on social media? How do you prefer to be followed and or connected or found?
Well, people can do a couple things. They could go to my website at getyourvirtualcto.com and go to the contact page and fill that out and send in information. Or they can send an email to hello@getyourvirtualcto.com,
Mhm.
and we'll get back to you. It might not always be me on the first reply, but if I'm the person you need to talk to, you will get to me. As far
Right.
as social media, we're on um, Twitter and Instagram as Your VCTO. We're on
Mhm.
Facebook under the Web Scientists, and then we're on LinkedIn under my name.
Right.
I have a business page, but I'm still trying to figure out why I have a
Yeah.
business page. But
You and me both, Mister. All I can figure out is we have to have it because we need that logo to appear on the side of our person.
that's kind
So
of what I think too.
I,
But
I may
it
be
is what it
incorrect.
is.
But there it is. Yes, exactly.
And that's what you do. Like you work with that all day long. And I'm kind of happy to hear you say you don't know what it's for either. Because I keep scratching my head like, why do I have this?
I hope I find out because, as you know, I'm allegedly a LinkedIn expert. But what we understand is that if you want to use that stuff, you need your personal profile, and that's what works there.
There's so many things I don't know either about technology that, I mean, I've been doing this for 30 years. But the thing is, I also think that when you've done something for a long time, like you and I have,
Mhm.
you're not afraid to admit that, "Oh, I don't know how to do that. I don't know what that's for."
No, no, really, because when it becomes important, we'll find out, or we'll send you the person to find out. And I think
Right.
that's the advantage too of being in business for a long time. You don't worry about that stuff so much because there's certain stuff that really does count, and that is
Yeah.
what you're focused on. So, Mike, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and sharing your virtual CTO. And is there anything else you want to say to kids at home, or shall we say goodbye?
Well, thanks for talking to me. I appreciate the questions. You asked some good questions. I hope everybody continues to come back and listen to the Technology Alchemist show. It's a weekly show, and you're going to learn a lot about technology, and you're going to learn a lot about how to run your business with a focus on technology. So, um, again, weekly, we're everywhere. We're on YouTube. So find us.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Mike.
All right. Thanks.